One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur. I am one of your hosts tonight, and I figure since our regular host for this particular movie is incognito under a shark suit somewhere, I figure I'd start us out tonight. We are going to go on about a 2019 film called Bad CGI Sharks from a group that is none other than called MAJAMA. And the reason being is that the first two letters are actually the first and last initials of each and every one of their names, so they figured they'd go with that in particular. But Bad CGI Sharks is basically about two brothers who ended up creating a script for a horror film, or at least what they thought was a horror film, and then because of the tensions between them, they grew apart and somehow got back together again. So, does that pretty much sum the film up for you guys? Do you think I got it wrong?
Yeah, I think that's basically the
rough approximation.
Magic clapperboard brings their shit to life, So you're kind of dealing with them like living out their dreams and maybe not
right.
Way.
So, starting with you, Mo, why don't you tell us your first impressions of this film?
Oh, it's pure trash. I loved it. I mean, it's the type of stuff that I really enjoy being turned on to. I imagine I actually would have gotten around to it just based on the title alone, but seeing that a couple of you guys I laughed my ass off through most of it. I think that it, was exactly probably what they wanted it to be. They should be proud.
Okay.
It was a mighty fine hair dick that guy was rocking in the movie. I must say, I'm thinking about adopting that style myself.
Going over to you, Brandon, what were your first impressions of this film?
Well, I had first heard about this film through Dustin himself because he had talked about doing a review for it, and I waited for the review because I was interested, and I never got it, and I was sad because I wanted to hear about these bad CGI sharks, and then when he talked about having it for this is even better, and now we have the opportunity. I now had the opportunity to watch a film called Bad CGI Sharks, which I have to have it, even with my limited funds. I had to have it in my collection. So it was there, and when I saw it, it was not disappointing. Matter of fact, I likened it a little bit to House Shark, but the timing was better, and I actually thought that the movie overall had a better feel to it. So I actually really enjoyed this film. It was good cheese, and it was well-timed cheese. So I gotta give it its due. This one might even give Dick Shark a run for its money.
That's a phrase that could go in different ways.
My life was so much more complete when I learned that Dick Shark existed, dude. It was just so perfect.
Just so you know, Dick NATO exists too. So
that sounds like a point.
Christmas.
But it's the sequel to Dick Shark, believe it or not same director. But in any case, moving on. Forrest, why don't you tell us what your first impressions of this particular film was?
Well, I'm going to say straight up, I'm going to be upfront right now. I'm embarrassed to say I haven't watched, outside of like Jaws and Deep Blue Sea, I haven't watched a ton of shark movies. Like I've never seen a single Sharknado.
You gotta do that.
I know. I'm so behind. But I did appreciate its self-aware. I did really appreciate its self-awareness. The good, lots of good gags and effective use of bad CGI.
And myself, I would have to say I wanted to get the Blu-ray when it first came out. I was not one of those ones who had been offered what is it screen for it or whatnot for it, but I did end up pre-ordering the DVD when it came out, and I fairly liked half of the film. The other part where it came into the animation, I was not as well mind geared towards the animation part, but I do like Forrest said, like the movie is self-aware how bad CGI is. So they were punning the CGI films that are out there, and I actually think their CGI was actually better than half the crap that they put out. So that being as said, what about you, Jake?
Well, as has been said already, some movies definitely catch your attention with the name, and this one caught my attention with the name. And having seen it, I can say that, oh yes, it will be mine. I don't know when, but it will. It actually, in a lot of ways, I didn't really think lightning could strike twice, but this is a lot like the reaction I had with Velociraptor in some way, and the Velocipaster in some ways, including the nods to how cheesy it is and whatnot. It actually is a little more polished feeling overall. It didn't feel quite as rough around the edges as Velocipaster or Press Start or some of those movies, but it's still, and definitely not as much as the X-Strike ones, but it did have that low budget vibe. And yeah, it had some pretty good jokes. I did enjoy the omnipresent director, Bernardo, I think his name was. Bernardo.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
He was quite amusing. And Amy was pretty cute, so that was nice. It definitely had a lot going for it, and I thought I would be at least moderately amused. I was not expecting to be highly amused, so it's good surprise.
So
I thought it was going to be way stupider based on the title.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was just going to be almost unwatchable trash, but it's actually pretty endearing trash, and you could tell they could have made a lot better movie if they really wanted to.
Right.
Just quid pro quo. The Majama team is actually made up of three different people involved in the project, and the first one being Matt Ellsworth, Jason Ellsworth, and Matteo Molinari. And Matteo Molinari, he is the guy who is the narrator throughout the thing that you were saying, Bernardo. The one that kept popping up and saying some stuff throughout the film. So I just wanted to put that out there. But let's look at the plot line here. So
Did we get Dane on there? I don't think we got Dane's first impression, did we?
What is your first impression of this?
Well, I'd never heard of it until it was proposed in the chat, and so saw it on Tubi before we started this, and it's I hate to sound like such a wet blanket here, but like it's not that I disliked it really. I just thought it was kind of okay. And it was mostly because well, okay, so the whole time that I was watching it, I couldn't help but ask myself, are these guys YouTubers? Because I'm getting some serious Smosh vibes with how they interacted with each other and just the overall production value and the tone and everything. if they aren't YouTubers, then they could have fooled me because it felt a lot like that. And I'm saying like some of the early YouTube personalities that went off and did movies later on. It has somewhat of
I can
that
see what
feel.
you're saying.
It has some of that feel to it, and what I mean by that is in terms of like the overacting that kind of comes across as phony rather than overacting that is really heartfelt. Because like what I loved about the Velocipaster was that as ridiculous as it was, like you could, especially the girl, like in
Yeah.
that one, like you could really tell that they were approaching it
Oh yeah.
with the same kind of process as a good actor should do for like a drama or anything. Like they're really believing what they're saying, as ridiculous as it is.
Right.
Here you never get the sense that anybody really believes what they're saying, and that they're
Yeah.
just they're trying to be characters rather than trying to be real people that are in this situation, even if it is heightened. And I mean that's what you should do in these kinds of things. I mean that's what I love about Sharknado is that everyone in there their characters are treating this like it's a serious thing, and them doing that makes it funny because what is happening around them is so ridiculous that when you're constantly sort of pointing out like, oh, this is really shitty, and it's like, and we have nothing else to fall back on, and that's why I don't really like the way that most people use meta humor these days. Which is not to say that I hate meta humor because I don't. Like I think the Muppets really use meta humor well. But like what and I brought up the YouTuber example because like this reminded me a lot of Smosh, or like especially a lot of what people of the nostalgia critics generation of YouTube content creators, kind of what they would think was funny as far as like just pointing out cliches without really doing a whole lot else to it's like instead of my philosophy is always instead of just pointing out what everyone else has already done, it makes a lot more sense to me to really invest in what you believe in and what you're doing different instead of just trying to kind of steamroll over everything that already exists. And unfortunately, this did give me the vibes of that particular era of YouTube content creation and how that, like a reference or an acknowledgement of a cliche gets automatically equated to a joke. And I didn't really like the three main guys. I thought they were kind of phony and annoying, and the one guy who was the magic person or whatever, he you could really tell that they were trying to go for someone that Lloyd Kaufman would have played. And if they'd have gotten him, then the movie would have automatically been 10 million times better just because it would have been Lloyd, obviously. But
I would have liked to see Lloyd in that role.
oh, I
Yes.
know.
Yes.
He would have
Right?
gotten it. He would have gotten it though, because he had the zaniness and he has the. You get the sense that he's also like, well, not only zany, but he's like really charismatic in
I
his
was,
zaniness.
I
Like
was,
this guy, he felt a little too subdued relative to what this kind of character should be. Like, I mean, this guy, you can
Huh.
tell that his function in the story is clearly to try to be someone like Robin Williams' genie from Aladdin. Like, you can tell he's trying to be that kind of character who can go anywhere and do anything, except that he doesn't have the range to really pull it off, and he comes across as perhaps a little too subdued, but also that I am an actor. I am reciting lines of dialogue. Like everyone's delivery in this movie is just like that, except for the one girl that Jacob really liked, which she actually was the best actress. She was the best actor in the whole movie because she did what you should do, which is as ridiculous as it is, as the subject matter is. You can't be smarter than the material. You have to do it and believe in it, and no, that's not to say I dislike the whole thing because my favorite part of the movie actually was when the shark starts talking because I have never seen that in one of these movies. Now, and I liked the voice. I liked the
It's
the
fucking terrifying.
exactly. So I mean, I was like, hey, there you go. That's something I've never seen before.
Mhm.
But like, I've seen commenting on movie cliches in your own movie that is worse than professionally made movies that have those cliches. Like I've seen that done a million times on pretty much everything Nostalgia Critic's ever done. I've seen that done before. I've seen constantly breaking the fourth wall to the point of nausea.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Work.
in other words, I've seen that done, but I've never seen a shark talking before. So that was like in a non kids movie or whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, you just hit us with we already finished the summary and our first impressions, so you can hit us with your first impression and take over, Dustin.
Yep.
This was your pick, right?
Dustin?
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Because I can't hear you at all.
What about now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, wow. It's so muted.
All right. So we went through our first impressions, and we did a small summary. You can take it over from here.
Okay. How's my audio sound now?
That sounds good.
Sounds good.
I have to do this from my phone because my computer hates Skype. And actually, when I click on the Skype link, you totally broke my computer, Dave. It just completely quit working.
Sorry.
Anyway, so I have a bit of a history with this. When I was looking to launch my own solo horror podcast and looking to do more reviews, I was reached out to by the guys behind this movie.
Oh, cool.
And they were like, hey, do you want a screener to review our movie? And I was like, sure. And I was really excited to do it. And then school got extremely difficult, and I just never got the chance to get around to it. And things have been kind of continuing that way for, I think, almost a year. Until today, when I finally got enough schoolwork done that I was able to sit down and watch it. And it was nuts. Like, I had no idea what to expect going into it. It kind of reminded me of, has anyone seen that movie called Rubber?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that, except good.
Yeah, I was going to say it reminded me of Rubber too, but I thought you hated that movie, so that's why I was curious.
I did hate that movie, but I liked this movie. That's why
I liked them both.
But good.
I liked them both.
Too.
And it was very. I can see why you guys watched this multiple times, as I only had time to see it once. You kind of need multiple viewings to be able to fully understand what's going on, because it moves at a pretty quick clip. Like, if you don't pay attention for a few moments, you're missing stuff. Which is pretty impressive for a movie with only 2 or 3 main characters.
Well, I was looking at Bernardo's character as if I were looking at Judd Hirsch as an actor. And Bernardo reminded me a lot like Judd Hirsch from Independence Day. And looking at it from that perspective, I like the movie narrated by this.
Oh,
I wasn't thinking Lloyd Kaufman in any of it, to be honest. I don't look up to him as like the only person that can act in a film. But I do appreciate Lloyd Kaufman when he shows up. So.
Just the way you said that, it was like, oh, so I'm just thinking like a movie where he plays every character.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would even love to see that movie.
I would have to say Killer Rack would have been a very different movie.
Actually, it's him with a bunch of Muppets, and he comes back and dubs the Muppets.
Yeah.
The only time we ever get that kind of thing is when Johnny Depp goes onto that ship, and like you see all of his different characters. swabbing the deck and all that jazz. It's just
If Eddie Murphy can do it with in his way, Lloyd
With
Kaufman could do it with
Nutty
his.
Professor, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he is playing two different characters in Shakespeare Shitstormy, or he is, because he's sorry, I was saying is playing as if it was still filming, but no, it's done. He plays two different characters in Shakespeare Shitstorm, so um,
Yeah, I love the pacing of this film. I actually say I like a good fast-paced film. Like I say,
Yeah.
I really wanted to love House Shark more. I think if they did that similar to this, and again, I can't really speak as much to because oddly enough, I think we both hit them at different ends of the spectrum for the nostalgia critic when you talk about it, Dane, because I have not watched any of his early stuff. I've only watched his more recent stuff.
but
And
his
I mean,
early stuff is a million
yeah,
times better.
because he doesn't really nitpick a lot. He's usually talking about how much he likes a film and trying to find the good qualities, which is why I'm like, oh, he doesn't
Well,
hate on.
then he must have
Oh,
changed his
critic
tune somewhat because see
nostalgia
he's
critic is pretty disgraced at this point. So
yeah, he is
kind
pretty disgraced.
positive. It's weird to hear positive things about him being said.
Yeah, well, it's the thing is with so when I was watching, I first got introduced to him in 2011, and so that was still in the sweet spot of
Oh yeah,
well, not only classic nostalgia critic, but it was in the sweet spot of I would still call it like that first generation of YouTube content creation, and it's not just nostalgia critic, but it's like that whole first wave of people like that. They tended to err on the side of just pointing out everything that's already been done rather than really trying to push for something new that they
Trying to
think
push
could be done
boundaries.
better or whatever. And I mean the delivery from these main characters, like their delivery of every line, just it felt way too like they're trying to be smarter than the material rather than them really believing in what they're saying, as ridiculous as it is. And that was very much something that you would find with like the nostalgia critics' attempts at movies, like with Suburban Nights and stuff. Which this wasn't. This actually had like some. This was like in terms of production value. This was like pretty good quality YouTube movie kind of level. Like it wasn't really like feature film type. Like this wasn't quite up to those standards, but it wasn't like the nostalgia critics' attempts at movies, quote unquote, were like worse than someone that used their dad's camcorder or whatever, and it's like so that it wasn't quite like that, but it did come at
better
it
than
from a
that.
similar. Well, that's what I mean, is that it's better than what his attempts at filmmaking were, but I'm saying like the style of humor was clearly somewhat influenced from that period of YouTube content creation, although nowhere near as obnoxious or without
Okay, what?
other substance or heart to it. Because I could see why people would really like these characters, and it's not like again with the nostalgia critic, his big fail safe was always to just scream a lot and be really shrill, but like luckily we didn't have anything like that here. It was
yeah.
yeah, but you see what I'm trying to get
Like I say,
at,
I
right?
probably wouldn't have liked the character if he was like that. That was a again. I guess it's all a matter of when you get introduced to a person.
Well, and also
I,
what age you are, because like, see, when I was first getting introduced to that, then I just sort of accepted that pointing out the flaws of things that exist, that was just sort of the norm. And when you are a certain age, like around high school, early college, then you're still kind of that age where you think you're a lot smarter than you really are, or a lot more mature than you really are. And so you kind of think that constitutes criticism, or that meta humor is automatically the same as clever writing. And like I knew people in my screenwriting classes that thought that just because they were making a reference to something that exists, or saying, oh, we're not going to do that thing that you've seen a million times. Like they thought that just the mere act of doing that was enough to constitute humor or cleverness, and it isn't. Which again, I think this was in a better class of that than I've seen, but it's still like meta humor is just such a tricky thing to get right. And at least it is for me. But I think that you can see kind of.
In
Go
a
ahead.
very real way, humor is a tricky thing to get.
Oh
right.
yeah.
And
And
part of
it's
that,
very
things that are
subjective.
funny to some people
Well, yeah.
are not funny to the other half of the
Right,
half
right.
of the
Actually,
audience.
there are people out there right now who will tell you that Disaster Movie is a hilarious and well done movie.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's funny.
And I'm not
Well,
gonna.
like,
I will not
okay,
belittle their opinion.
when
This
I
movie
was
had
like,
a lot more dignity than that.
well, I was like
Man.
15. I was 15 years old when I saw Epic Movie, and I saw it on the big screen with friends, and it was like, well, you're of that age where again you're too stupid to know the difference, and and again that was before YouTube kind of took over the whole badly made reference heavy spoof genre. That was back when before it took it over. So at the time, it was like, oh yeah, I recognize that and that, and all of those like one joke premises. They were comparatively more fresh, partially because of your age and also because it wasn't on in every YouTube video ever. But yeah, in this film, like you could tell that there was more heart to it than that. It was just more so. I feel like there could have been more to it if you either did another rewrite of the script, or preferably if you got performers that really embodied the characters like completely, and they weren't kind of getting ahead of the story, if that makes sense. Because when you kind of elevate yourself above the material, then sometimes it can just come across as phony, and especially if it's a comedy, then sometimes it can prevent the jokes from falling flat. I mean, it's such a delicate recipe. And again, it's very subjective because like I thought Meet the Feebles was hilarious because I have a really sick, fucked up sense of humor. But for most people, I can 100% sympathize with them not liking it or getting it or being horrified by it or whatever.
Finding
So
it gross.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
That's what makes it art.
Exactly. And I also, I guess that's part of why I like it is because I know that most people it'll like horrify most people, and so that kind of increases the humor value for me, because like sometimes the types of humor that you get or you appreciate, there tends to be subgenres of humor, but also certain audiences that will appreciate certain kinds of humor. And so there are going to be some movies or certain comedians or whatever that for whatever reason they just don't click with you, even though you can understand why they might click with someone else. So I acknowledge that there's a decent percentage of that at play as well.
Well,
I think
let's
if it's guilty of
back
anything,
into the
it's.
plot.
Oh, well, Mo,
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mo.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think if it's guilty of anything, it's maybe just being a little too excessive with its brand of humor at a couple of moments. I mean, there's parts where it really was fun to me, like the checklist or
Yeah.
the gratuitous titties. I'm sure we'll get to that.
But
I
I like that part. That was good. It's I think which actually the funny thing about the bad CGI or whatever is that it like I forget who said it, but it was the CGI was actually better than the CGI in a lot of shark movies that I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're nice, dude. Good models there.
And especially towards the end, which don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but the shark model got better and certainly more unique. I like and that speaks to the movie's credit. The actual shark itself was pretty unique and only got more so as the movie went on. So props to
Yeah.
him for that.
All right.
So let's. We didn't even look at the plot or really all that much of the characters. Dustin, maybe if you could explain some of the film.
You mean, could I explain the plot?
Yeah.
So, this guy has to take care of his older brother, who is, let's just say, special.
Yes.
And at about the same time, and it's always been their dream to make a movie about sharks. And at the same time, this mysterious CGI shark just shows up and starts killing people. So, and if I understood it correctly, because I had a very strong beer while I watched this, the shark is freed from their script. And so they have to finish the movie in order to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Bernardo's a whimsical genie that goes around, or a magician, he calls himself, and he uses
Right.
his magical clapper to just bring magic into people's lives when they need it most, but it breaks, so they've got to actually like deal with it.
Right.
He's a muse.
Yes, use.
Though I like the muse and Dogma better, but that's
Right.
I was gonna say nothing will ever,
Demonio.
nothing will ever beat Salma Hayek in that department.
Yeah.
In a lot of departments, actually.
That's true.
so you get the full explanation of the muse thing at the beginning.
And Jason Jason Ellsworth, I think that's what his name is the special young brother, and he's got an interesting.
He's the older brother, actually.
Yeah, the older brother.
Which kind of made me. I don't know, that kind of hit me a little close to home because my younger brother is kind of the more successful one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was watching this like sweating a bit.
Well, you're not that zany or that like enthusiastic, I don't think, or like misguidedly so. You know,
Boisterous, anyway.
boisterous. Yeah, that's a good word.
I think is the term I would look for.
But that hair, oh
Just
my!
happy go lucky and everything. Let's do this the next day, kind of thing.
That's like an old samurai haircut gone wild.
I was gonna say,
Good
yeah,
stuff.
it's like
Meant to be like a
that
shark.
that hair needed to be censored.
I couldn't stop
Yep.
staring at it for the first like 5 minutes of his introduction. It's bothering
Well,
me.
and I'm gonna be honest. He was kind of annoying as a character for me.
Yeah.
Through most of the movie, I
And
didn't
they made it
mind.
work.
I didn't mind his brother because you know he just kind of seemed to be going with the flow of what was happening. You know,
Yeah,
But
he was the straight man.
I really
Well,
did
yeah,
enjoy. I
but
really
there.
did. Go ahead.
Well, Dane, you were talking before about things being kind of a delicate balance, and
Yeah.
for me, I will agree that the brothers could have been better. I don't fully feel that they weren't committed to their roles, but
Yeah.
I feel like Jason was over the top.
Yeah,
But Matthew was, you said you were kind of the wet blanket on this discussion. He was kind of the wet blanket on the movie. Like there's the straight man, and then there's the whiny straight man.
yeah,
And I'm not a fan of the whiny straight man. So he had his moments, and by the end of the movie, he was doing better. But for much of the movie, I was kind of like, yeah, he's the least interesting one on the screen.
yeah. He was definitely
know,
a sour. He was definitely a sourpuss.
Yeah.
But
I
the
thought his
go ahead.
reaction to things kind of matched my own. Just like, what is happening? Oh my god!
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that it's an unrealistic.
I thought he was pretty well done.
Well, I'll say this, like, which again, I don't mean to be an excessively wet blanket or anything, just maybe a damp blanket, but I won't say damp with what, but just a slightly damp blanket. But
WAP, man. That's what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
well,
You
the
obviously didn't have a pee alarm when you were a kid, did you?
well, what I was gonna say was the one thing I'll say which again, not this is a positive comparison to, as opposed to like what the nostalgia critic would do, or someone similar to that of that generation of content creators, is thankfully nobody in here necessarily like excessively screamed or thought that
Yeah.
that was a substitute for a joke or for a emotion here or whatever. So, thankfully that was the case, because had that been the case, and it's like, oh man, that would have been insufferable, because the older that I get, I start to sympathize with my dad when like he couldn't take noise of any kind, and he couldn't stand like screaming and stuff like that. So I mean, I can, not that I couldn't, and not that I was the opposite, because I didn't really like that stuff either, but thankfully I can sympathize with it more now, even more than I could then. But yeah, thankfully nobody nobody defaulted to screaming excessively as a substitute for a joke.
True enough.
Oh,
Well, one of the first scenes that we get that I wanted to mention was the scene with the girlfriend that's texting the boyfriend friend, and she's obviously making a small joke. Come over, take a bite, and then all of a sudden the shark just kind of swarms her bedside. I've never seen that in a shark movie, so.
eh,
I like that when he comes
Great.
in too, and he's like, "What, did your pussy explode?" Like,
Actually,
Yeah.
the
Right out of the
closest movies I've seen to this when it comes to the shark type would either be Ghost Shark or even maybe Sand Shark. The Sand Shark's kind of
I was
pushing
gonna
it.
bring that up.
But it's the only time I see sharks kind of like in that kind of ridiculousness. Like I think, and House Shark. I keep bringing House Shark back because
Yeah.
House Shark feels the closest to this.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to think I hated House Shark. I really liked House Shark. It's just, I thought to myself, if it was as tightly edited as this one was, I think it would have even been better. It's just like you got some amazing things that go on in these little shark movies, and I just love the ridiculousness. Anything that can push the over the top feel for me. And again, this is why it's art. It's looked at differently. That's why I like Rubber. Is I look at that and it's that absurdity. I like when it can actually turn my mind off for a moment and I can go, huh? Just for
Well,
just a moment. And
it's absurdity, but I think also when you blend it with real sincerity and conviction with what you're doing, then I think that can make a really palpable combination,
It
and that's why.
could, but I also enjoy the silliness of um, the outlandish, the impossible, and yet even not done in seriousness. You know what? You know what I mean? I mean, there have been many films that have been had a serious title, but oftentimes you'll find that the acting is outlandishly humorous, and the situation is impossible and improbable, but
Well,
it's
I
happening
think
on the screen.
well, I think it's more so just in this case. I think it's more so that I think that a lot of these jokes could have landed a little bit better, at least for me, if you could have had more, I guess, like a higher caliber of actors behind it, and that was part of what made me ask, like, are these guys YouTubers? Because it kind of felt like it was on that level, but like, and that was a big point in, well, both the Sharknado series and especially like in Velocipaster's favor, was that you could tell that they were good actors, genuinely good actors, that happened to also get the material and really get inside of it, and exploit it to its fullest. I mean, there's a reason why the '60s Batman show, why that's so funny, because you had really good, like classically trained actors getting on there and going nuts, but also still doing all of the essential things that you have to do, even when you are overacting or when you're going over the top, is that you're really getting inside of the character and playing around. And so I think that's a pretty big point of difference there.
In
But
fairness,
go
in
go ahead.
fairness, it's really hard to out straight man Adam West.
That is true.
Right.
I mean, well, Adam
Yes.
West is a legend of that kind of acting. Like he referred to it as the theater of the absurd, which I think is a great description of it. It's something that very few people, I think, really get in. Certainly not in the way that he did. Um, he got it in a way that very few have, but also he was able to provide that correct amount of gravitas, but also uh, kind of ridiculousness in the sense that he's like the smartest guy in the room, basically, but that's not saying much. And so it's I don't know, it's a delicate balance, and I think it really comes down to the caliber of actor that's there, and that is kind of a very specialized thing, and there's a reason why Leslie Nielsen made a career out of that sort of thing, and why the jokes land so well in something like Airplane, because Robert Hayes and the rest of them, they got inside the material, and they really did their best to play it straight within the confines of this ridiculous world that they were in, and so that just helped to make the jokes land, I guess.
I don't know if they had classically trained actors in the budget though. After the Sharks, I'm pretty sure it all went.
Yeah.
Friggin'
Well, I
Chimp,
think
you know,
that
so.
that shark sure did seem like she was classically trained.
The
Yeah.
actors were so good. I don't know why we're kind of seems like we're kind of dumping on them a bit here, and I'm kind of baffled by that because I thought everybody in this was pretty on the ball.
Oh, I loved Bernardo, man. I
Oh,
thought he was hilarious. I mean,
I
I
didn't
definitely
actually-
strongly disagree on.
See, I didn't think
he's
the
fun.
I didn't think the acting was bad. I didn't think it was excellent level acting, but I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I mean that's more. I'm comparing it more to movies that are in a similar category to this. I'm not comparing them to, anything that is like I'm not the same. I don't think Laurence Olivier could do a movie like this.
Well, and I will grant you
Maybe.
that I believe one of the points we did make on Velocipaster was how good the acting was relative to the material. I
Yeah,
do admit this is not quite that level of acting, but again, I don't think it's bad acting. I mean, it's like,
yeah.
honestly,
If I were to rank it, I'd say it's like mid level relative to movies like this.
right. I would say
The only
from
character I disliked was Jake, personally. That's
What's
it
that?
for me. I liked all the other ones. I said Jake was the only character I disliked, and I could see some of Dane's comparison to like a YouTube skit when it comes to a lot of that
was
guy's
that
stuff.
the silly next
The younger.
The neighbor.
Yeah, the neighbor actually was probably
Weird.
he was probably the worst actor out of all of them, because
Yeah.
like he
Right.
felt like that first generation of YouTube content creators crossed
Mhm.
with someone like Nick Swarsden or something, and
I didn't mind the part where he's driving them later on.
yeah, that was probably his best moment.
They gave me these pills. Freezes. So we should be operating machinery. And I was like, yes.
See, I totally
You and me both,
enjoyed
buddy.
like the fact that he was getting throttled around in his home. I thought that was a good position for him to be in.
By the way, guys, you do know there is like 100% chance the makers of this movie are going to hear this, right?
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't think anybody here has said the movie is bad. Matter of fact, most of us, except for maybe one of us, has said that we really like the movie.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not even saying I hated it or anything. I'm just more saying that out of everyone in the group, I probably disliked it the least. But I think that it's I wouldn't necessarily say bad or even necessarily like I've seen some truly like irredeemable pieces of shit, and this definitely isn't that.
Oh,
Opinions
mean-
of Dane do not represent those of Don Cryptognito on Twitter.
Oh yeah, I mean, I thought.
Yeah,
it was
I don't.
hilarious
I
at
liked
many
it, man.
points. This was like a great movie for this type of movie. I love this caliber of movie. I have gotten into it more since joining this group than I used to, but I have always loved the Velocipastors, the house sharks, die zombie, die, things like this. You know, these are just like the backbone of a lot of the industry, and I think that they have a great niche. I would, I think the world is a lot better with the bad CGI Sharks in it.
Well, that like here's a good. Well, okay, so yeah, if they do hear it, then I would hope that they would want honest feedback, number one, and I'm truly trying to be constructive with all this stuff. But the other thing, like here's a good example the other way, something like Attack of the Jurassic Shark, like that
Oh my
one
God, that was the
is
worst thing I've ever seen.
if that's the yeah. So I mean, like that one was so much worse made on every single level, and the acting was bad, and well, and bad in a well, that it was in a way that was not so much that they weren't getting into the material, it was more so that the actors just didn't know what they were saying. And, that's not the case here. And so, and again, the CGI shark actually looked pretty darn good relative to most movies like this, and it certainly
What a
got
genuinely
more.
good show.
Well, it got more creative as it went along. So again, I'm really in my phrasing of all this stuff. I really am trying to be constructive because that's
Versus
always the
Toon Sharks.
intention.
Like the effects on the Toon Sharks really worked well for their designs. So I
Now
enjoyed
that was pretty unique. I
Yeah, I
have to
enjoyed
say. I
that as
like
well.
if anything, that kind of
Who directed you
creature.
with that?
That was funny. Well, if anything, that kind of tune animal going wild, that whole thing, like that, I don't know if has that. Well, I'm thinking of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and stuff, but like in 3D in that same kind of way, I don't know if I've ever seen that really happen. But
Monkey Bone.
Monkey Bone. All
That's the
right.
only one I can think of. But that was more of a Tim Burton-ish style animation.
Oh, so like stop motion.
Yeah,
Motion, yeah.
that came to life. But that was kind of a weird, creepy. It was definitely a unique taste for a movie.
I've heard good things about that. But yeah, I mean, this movie does like the whole theme of it, which is a good theme, which is about like not letting your creativity die as you get older and as you kind of assimilate into the adult world, and just allowing yourself to make a movie that's crazy or to have a crazy idea and run with it. That theme is very much here, and that is very much in line with what Lloyd Kaufman would say in Make Your Own Damn Movie, that if you have a crazy idea, just go out and do it, and that don't let things hold you back. And that is very much the spirit of this thing.
And it does. It does warrant mention. Dave said something at the beginning about them kind of growing apart, but it really was much more specific. That I don't remember the exact line. I actually thought the line was quite amusing, or the way it was stated. But like their father said something to the effect of he had great hopes for them. And then he had great hopes for Jason.
And then he saw how
whichever
Jake
the
turned
other
out, and then he had.
Yeah, he saw how he turned out, and then he had great hopes for and it was kind of like it really was not so much they just kind of fell apart as it was their father basically said, okay, you are a lost cause, forget you. and we're going to send you across the country so that you don't have to deal with this guy.
Yeah, which I mean, parental pressure will do that to you pretty
Yeah.
good as far as like, because like I know for myself that my brother, he was a very high achiever himself, which is not to say that I wasn't, because I sure tried to be, but like it was in ways he was a high achiever in ways that were at their core perhaps more familiar and more readily accepted than my ways of being an achiever, but I still managed that anyway. But it definitely was such that when you are pushed in a specific direction or pushed away from something else or someone else, then it can definitely strain things. So they definitely got that part down as well. That's a very true to life theme.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and that and like using all the home footage or whatever at the beginning added a lot of charm to it too.
Yeah.
Like I definitely got that feeling throughout the movie. Like they really were little kids at one point that really wanted to make a shark movie.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, it's easy to get swept up in the I don't know what you would call that. Like feeling proud for them that they got to do their silly
Yeah.
shark movie. You know.
Which
really,
I did
That's-
really like the stuffed shark, and I kind of well now talking about like your childhood dreams or whatever. I kind of wanted the stuffed shark. I kind of wanted that one to talk or to come to life or something.
I mean, that
There's
was
always
a.
time for that in the sequel.
Yeah.
He got a credit introducing Chumley.
Well, that was part of.
Hell
See,
yeah.
that was part of what got me kind of hyped to see that happen, because I was like, well, you gave him a credit. I want to see him talk.
I actually love the first part of that when they're doing that, because it kind of struck a spark with me when I was young. I really liked doing stuff like that, engineering different things. I mean, me and some friends, we did our own little Mystery Science Theater show, or a version of a show, because we really loved that back in those days. And it's just cool to be able to look at something like that and just kind of feel that it's like, yes, that creativity, that spark is there. So it was really fun. I mean, actually, one thing I really wish I did, and one of the extras on the DVD is you get the toy commercial. And I really want those toys. I want the action figures from the bad CGI Sharks.
That'd
Yeah.
be cool.
See, I don't have the DVD because I have yet to actually encounter the DVD in the wild. Where did you find it?
I know that I pre-ordered mine when it was a pre-order on eBay, believe it or not. So it came out that way. It was out at Walmart for a very limited time. That's
Amazon.
the thing. Yep, Amazon. You can get it there. So. But
Okay.
no, I have not found it out in the wild myself. So.
Matter of fact, our pickups tomorrow are going to actually have that, because I showed it off in the pickups, because it's I liked it. It had a decent number of special features, and it was genuinely fun. Like I said, the toy commercial was hilarious. I really liked it, and like I say, I want their action figures.
You'd have had to get in on the Indiegogo campaign, which I know that there was one for it at one point, and I know that they had similar items to House Shark, which House Shark has still got like a lot of shit.
See, that's the sad thing, is I found out about this thing after it was all over.
Oh, this is the
Yeah.
type of thing I'd have contributed to for sure.
Mhm.
How can you not? You know.
Oh, darn straight! I'd have definitely contributed money, and if they offered those toys as a perk, I would have contributed at least to that level. I saved up to do
They
that.
need to throw in those comically large Hollywood lighters so I could smoke my weed with that. That looks like a good time.
Well, you should.
I really
get
like
him
the part at
get
the
him to do a sequel.
There you go. I really like the part at the beginning when they're watching She Gods a Shark Reef too. They don't show very much of the movie, but it's just cool to see show up. That's truly a piece of crap. You got to be a shark fan to want to sit through that. I have on several occasions, and I enjoy it. So.
I just get a kick out of at least 3/4 of this movie. I mean, you have the shark coming through the living room and like attacking them through hallways and shit. And to me, I would love to see a shark swim through my house. I don't know about you, but for some reason, for some inkling of a moment, yeah, I'd love to see that come into my home and be like, hello, you know.
And it can stay in your house, and
And that would be the part where you look down at what you're smoking and go, man, this shit is awesome.
yeah.
You know what we haven't seen yet, which someone's gonna nick this idea, but we haven't yet seen. Well, we've seen it in a like a meme photo, so obviously, like, you know, doctored image. Someone's had this in their brain, but I don't think we've seen it in movie form yet. But the shark in the swimming pool, or a shark in a bathtub, which I know that James Rolfe referenced. You know, he's like, pretty soon it's going to be a shark in a fucking bathtub. But what about that? I mean, we've already gotten sharks that don't even need to be limited by the water, sharks that are, you know, can swim around in the air or whatever, and it's like, you know, just go for it, you know, put that shark in that pool, and
Only if you count Ghost Shark. Ghost Shark was the only one I've seen in a pool.
Have we got space sharks yet? Someone has to have done that. That needs
but
to
we've
happen.
got space clowns. I know that.
Which I actually did contribute to the Kickstarter for a movie called Sky Sharks, which is set to come out maybe sometime next year, I think, something like that. They're getting pretty close. It was a slow process to get it done, but that one is one with sharks in the air and with like Nazis and robots and shit. And it's like, well, that's how you do it. It's like, if you're gonna do the shark shit, then it's like, throw in the robots, throw in the Nazis, throw in everything, you know.
God, that was a campaign that was long ago.
Yeah, it really was. It was like back in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
No,
That's what I mean. It's taken them a while to get it done.
I love the part with the shark getting the laptop and then becoming sentient, but also becoming aware of gigs and gigs of porn.
Yes.
And then coming out the kind of porno outfit at the end of the movie.
I laughed pretty hard at that.
Intercourse.
I really like the every time the shark and the shark spawn, every time that they glitched out, I thought that was pretty cool. It reminded me of that one, which, again, speaking of YouTube, but in a really good comparison, it reminded me of that one short film that I think it was something. It might have been called The Glitch or something, but it was with all the video game characters, and they were glitching out, and they were like going through the floor, through the walls. Their facial features were distorting like crazy, and, you know, because it had like Mario and Link and all that stuff, and it was like, you got to reset the game, you know. And it reminded me certainly of that in its showing of what happens when digital assets, when they glitch or when they fail to render and that sort of thing. And you saw, like, the having done 3D modeling, like, I liked seeing the X, Y, and Z axis of
Yeah,
the
that
3D
was hilarious.
models.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I liked
Good
seeing
touch.
that. I liked the fact that the shark did get progressively better looking once it did have time to render, which is accurate.
Horns. That was pretty fun.
Oh yeah.
You guys caught all like the weird things you just picked up from different like, CGI models. That just looked cool.
Oh yeah, we had like the horns and the shark or whatever that was, tiger skin. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was a good homage to a lot of the different CGI sharks that we may or may not have seen in the past. Only I think it was done better.
Now, one thing that I don't know, this may have been a examination of tropes or whatever, but it's something that always kind of annoys me, and it may have been one of the things that slowed my entry into horror, if you will, is the whole thing of, okay, this flippin' shark just appeared in our living room, and it clearly can fly, and let's run outside into the open where there's no cover at all. It's
Let's
like,
hide behind the wall of chainsaws.
well, yeah. I mean, now granted, they have no way of knowing if they would be safe trying to pull themselves up somewhere. But their very first instinct is to run outside to the open. How do they know there isn't a whole school of sharks waiting outside?
Well, they don't, but at the same time, then someone else would hear you say that and go, well, why did they go up to the attic, or why did they go down to the
Yes.
basement when they should have been running out the front door? So I mean,
That's a frequent one for me. It's like, don't go upstairs. No, they
well, but that's what I mean though. Is like you could easily take what you just said and flip it around, and it would be the same kind of criticism because, well,
true.
in either instance, nobody knows because, like, for all we know, with that was when
a roving band of serial killers outside.
Exactly. Well, it's like with because they reference that in Scream, which it's like, how do you know that there's not an army of ghost faces out there? Which now that they should do that for Scream 5.
I still can't believe they're doing that, but whatever. Hopefully it'll be good.
It's got Jenna Ortega in it, and I'm like, okay, I'm there.
I like
do
the
it with bad
language.
CGI Ghostface.
The shark is Ghostface.
Oh, I did like the homage to Michael Myers in the ghost costume. I like that.
So
That was pretty fun.
I also like the way that they had the shark talk because of all the porn, where the shark was like, "If you do not upgrade me, I will eat you out."
Yeah.
They could do Scream 5 at a shall I say, V for Vendetta and Scream convention at the same time, and then all kinds of people show up with Guy whatever masks and
Guy Fawkes.
Yeah, Guy Fawkes masks and Ghostface masks, and then they have a killer running around killing people.
And for some reason, my brain is fried. First of all, but you were stumbling over his last name, and for some reason, I wanted to say Guy Fieri.
That
Yes.
That'd be
Take him
funny.
to Flavatown. That's what I'm saying.
The Ghostface attacking a bunch of Guy Fieri costumed people.
Now you got a movie. Which actually, that reminds me, it was like the Siskel and Ebert worst of 1997, and one of Siskel's least favorites was House Arrest with Jamie Lee Curtis and
Blasphemy. That movie rules.
well, it was that one and whatever his name is. Anyway, what?
Kevin Pollak?
Yeah, Kevin Pollak. Yeah, he was talking about that, and basically it was because it was that one, and then Roger Ebert's pick was Joe's Apartment, which had the cockroaches, and then then Siskel was like, "What if you had the parents trapped in the basement, attacked by cockroaches? Now you got a movie." And I was like, "Yes, he's got the right idea."
With the singing cockroaches from Joe's Apartment. There we go.
Yeah,
that whole movie is great.
yeah. Make the cockroaches sing before they kill the people, which we didn't have singing sharks in this one. Now that I don't know if I've ever seen singing sharks.
A shark musical, shark massacre musical. There we go.
There you go.
Put that in the sequel, if we're given the filmmakers advice.
Bad CGI Sharks the musical.
Next, they'll make Sharknado the musical.
Oh, they got to do that.
Probably in development somewhere.
So do we have like a?
I just realized if you look at the poorly animated sharks and then the mother shark, we kind of have a little bit of a parallel here with our other movie tonight with the Fratellis, because you do have the two, the one's like really pugnacious and one's a little sleeker, and they're both sort of competent, and then you get the weird one that's kind of good-hearted but has a interesting fashion sense, and then you have the really mean, nasty mother.
That's a good word, pugnacious.
Looks like a guy.
Yes. Now, if only that one shark had started singing opera, then we definitely have a parallel. But whatever.
So, we should probably be starting to wrap up with some stuff so we can move on to the main discussion.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have any last thoughts for this thing?
Any last words?
I think there was a lot of little things in it that I found funny that we didn't really get to cover, like, Bernardo stealing the donuts. I thought that was hilarious. I don't know why. Or the fact that dude tried to crawl into that storm drain. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
The ocean.
I like his plot. Drains to the ocean, so if we follow it, we'll get to the ocean.
Yeah, he said it like he just had it so figured out. Like, these lead straight there, and just... You think you can get your clown feet, let alone your whole body in there? Like, that was just a good moment. And, it's just we can't understate how kind of genuinely creepy it is when that shark first talks. So that would be my...
Yeah. And then I know, Mo, you wanted to make mention of that one part that we all, I think, enjoyed where Bernardo is talking about one thing or another, and he's like, and I will give you a gratuitous shot of titties.
Yes. And they were voluptuous. Okay.
Oh yeah, that was that opening. That entire opening explanation was my favorite part of the film. I like the way that he talked about being that muse to people, and it looked like it wasn't quite working out very well at the time, but I guess it worked out okay in the end, according to what he said. Like where they had this like that blood stain on the side.
And though I thought he was a very cool second to Judd Hirsch as an actor, I really for a second there I thought I could hear him actually speaking the beginning lines of Aladdin for a moment. I don't know why.
Well, you made the genie connection too, then.
Yeah, I didn't. I did not see that at all. I'm trying to think what he reminded me of, or who, or whatever.
I like the creepiness of that basement in the beginning and ending. I was like, he's like, he must be making snuff films down there or something.
Well, we don't know what the team will bring to us next. Maybe they'll bring us that gratuitous set of voluptuous ape titties in the next film. Maybe they'll
just put those in there, boys, wherever you want. I'm down.
Now, isn't that interesting that in this film there was a surprise? Like, despite them kind of mentioning the tropes of the various shark movies that have been done, and in pointing them out. And that's obviously the bulk of what I talked about. But interestingly enough, there was very little in the way of blood or in the way of like gore or nudity or anything like that. And they make mention of other movies doing that. But for this one, I was like, isn't that interesting? They didn't really even have a whole lot of... Like, if you'd have cut out the few swear words I recall... then you might have even come away with like a PG or something.
For kids.
Yeah.
And the I will say that this just goes to my point that you don't need lots of gore and nastiness and splatter and stuff to make an entertainment film. I know some here would disagree, but
well, no, I agree.
I mean, I love it.
I agree with that in principle for sure. I think it depends on the kind of movie that you're doing and how far you want to go with it, because
just have
I went into this thinking they would go a lot further, and I was pleasantly shocked that they did.
Instead they just had some chick scream and throw a pail of wet paint on the over every episode. So.
Well, I mean, and it also, again, it depends on what you're trying to say and how far you're wanting to go with it. Because, like, love it or hate it, Meet the Feebles wouldn't be the same movie if they sugarcoated everything. And, a Lloyd Kaufman film wouldn't be the same if it wasn't, extremely gory, batshit crazy,
Let alone a hippo with a hernia.
Exactly.
I'm not sure there was anything quite off color here as sodomy or quite as violent as that final shooting spree, but
But we could have used a musical number up to that same caliber, I think. If they make a sequel, they need to put in a lot of musical numbers, and if they can get it up to those kind of sodomy levels, then I think all will be right with the world, even though that might be a little overly lofty.
Does anybody else have any favorite scenes that they wanted to show out?
Well, one more one I want to mention is the checklist that Dane touched on earlier. I did like that one of them didn't get checked and that they actually made a point of showing that it was an X instead. I thought that was kind of fun that they did that.
Yeah, that was a good touch. Good, yeah. Subtle touch.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think I kind of mentioned mine, which is the beginning bedroom scene. To be honest, I love the fact that the fin came by. She didn't notice it, and all of a sudden, it just started pulling her off the bed, and then it flung her back on the bed, and all of a sudden you just get this big sploosh of red. So. I enjoyed that little bit, especially since the shark was under the sheet when the boyfriend came. That was kind of an interesting touch.
That was wonderful, and you can tell like two guys standing under the sheet.
I appreciated that part.
Yeah, that really made me think of
as long as they were referencing Halloween and not a ghost story, we're good.
Yeah. Actually, Forrest, did you have your favorite scene? Did you?
So definitely the sheet scene. Also, the beginning when they're showing Jason and Matthew as kids, making this movie. Even though
that was great.
Even though they don't have the resources to make anything to make it look good, they're still. I just like seeing them putting there's that effort that passion to make something.
Yeah, the shark in the toilet, like the little plastic shark.
And then, of course, for some reason, I don't know why this wasn't mentioned, but the poster scene at the end where he's like, "Oh, I made my own poster," and he's like, "Oh no, we have 190, 96 of these too," and then they open it up, and it's that beautiful poster that evidently their mother had sent with a little child picture of them too. So. But in any case, other than that, I don't think I have anything else to add. Anyone else?
No.
Well, this movie, I'm just going to do some closing thoughts. This movie, I didn't know what to expect going in, and I was pretty pleasantly surprised. So, if you have the opportunity, definitely see it. It's on Tubi.
Mm-hmm.
And where else can you see this? Did you say it was on Amazon too?
YouTube.
Amazon has it on Prime, and you can do like I did and get a physical copy on Amazon for about $10, which to me, it's $10 well spent.
For sure. I'm ordering it on payday definitely.
Yeah, too.
So, alrighty. I think on that note, I think we'll save our outros for the next talk here. So thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully you just give the movie a good shout out, a rating, and all that jazz. So like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for listening.
You know what we need? It's a shark with titties.
That's